Ab world mefeskadus adawamla amen. Besama ab world mefeskadus adawamla amen. Besama ab world mefeskadus adawamla amen. Yes, good morning, and how you doing? Hope everyone's doing good, and hope this reaches you in good spirits. So today's reading, Deuteronomy 16. Give thanks. Observe the month of Abib, and keep the Passover to Yahweh your God. For in the month of Abib, Yahweh your God brought you out of Egypt by night. You shall sacrifice the Passover to Yahweh your God, of the flock and the herd, in the place which Yahweh shall choose to cause his name to dwell there. You shall eat no leavened bread with it. You shall eat unleavened bread with it 7 days, even the bread of affliction, for you came out of the land of Egypt in haste, that you may remember the day when you came out of the land of Egypt all the days of your life. No yeast shall be seen with you in all your borders 7 days, neither shall any of the meat which you sacrifice the first day at evening remain all night until the morning. You may not sacrifice the Passover within any of your gates which Yahweh your God gives you, but at the place which Yahweh your God shall choose to cause his name to dwell there. There you shall sacrifice the Passover at evening. At the going down of the sun, at the season that you came out of Egypt, you shall roast and eat it in the place which Yahweh your God chooses. In the morning you shall return to your tents. 6 days you shall eat unleavened bread. On the 7th day be a solemn assembly to Yahweh your God. You shall do no work. You shall count yourselves 7 weeks. From the time you begin to put the sickle in the standing grain, you shall begin to count 7 weeks. You shall keep the feast of weeks to Yahweh your God with the tribute of a freewill offering of your hand, which you shall give according to how Yahweh your God blesses you. You shall rejoice before Yahweh your God. Your son, your daughter, your male servant, your female servant, the Levite who is within your gates, the foreigner, the fatherless, and the widow who is amongst you, in the place which Yahweh your God shall choose to cause his name to dwell there. You shall remember that you were a slave in Egypt. You shall observe and do these statutes. You shall keep the feast of booths 7 days after you have gathered in from your threshing floor and from your winepress. You shall rejoice in your feast, you, your son, your daughter, your male, your servant, your female servant, your Levi, the foreigner, the fatherless, and the widow who are within your gates. You shall keep a feast to Yahweh your God 7 days at the place which Yahweh chooses, because Yahweh your God will bless you in all you increase, and in all the work of your hand, and you shall be altogether joyful. 3 times in a year all of your males shall appear before Yahweh your God in the place in which he chooses, in the feast of unleavened bread, in the feast of weeks, in the feast of booths. You shall not appear before Yahweh empty. Every man shall give as he is able, according to Yahweh your God's blessing which he has given you. You shall make judgments and officers in all your gates, and which Yahweh your God gives you, according to your tribes, and they shall judge the people with righteous judgment. You shall not pervert justice. You shall not show partiality. You shall not take a bribe, for a bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and perverts the wise of the words of the righteous. You shall follow that which is altogether just, that you may live and inherit the land which Yahweh your God gives you. You shall not plant for yourselves an Asherah, or any kind of tree besides Yahweh your God's altar, which you shall make for yourselves. Neither shall you set yourselves up a sacred stone which Yahweh your God hates. For these few words I give thanks, blessings, and love. So, some more recap on what we've already seen in Exodus and Leviticus in terms of the fasts and the feasts, the festivals that the children of Israel should be observing. And then we also have, again, instructions on the altar and the sacrifices and how they shall be done. And then we also have the instructions for the judges and how the judges should be administrating the judgment over the children of Israel, that they should take no bribes and it should be equal and fair. And then lastly, we also have the instructions to not replicate the altars of Canaan, which they had, which was to plant trees next to altars, to plant a stone for an altar to God. And it says very strongly here, which Yahweh your God hates. So it's about not doing that which we've seen the people of Canaan doing to worship their gods. If you remember a few chapters ago, God and Moses instructed the children of Israel to destroy all the altars of Canaan, and those particularly in the high places, which is where Canaan used to worship their gods, on top of the mountains and the hills, etc. And God didn't want those to just be, rebranded to be then worshipping him. He wanted there to be a clean slate. So that's what that element is talking about. You could say that this chapter is looking at three things. One, of remembrance, the importance of the feasts and the festivals and the holy days, the importance of the children of Israel to remember the experiences, you could say, of what's happened before, the fact that God brought them out of Egypt where they were enslaved, and to remembering all of the endurances that their ancestors has put them through, but to remember what God has done for them. So remembrance is a very key thing to do with holy festivals. The next element that this chapter deals with is thanksgiving, and it talks here, we heard it previously about sacrifices, but it's about thanksgiving. And after you remember, it's about giving thanks to God for all he's done for you, giving thanks that we are still here in the present day. So it's giving thanks to the ancestors for all that they've done, but knowing that it's not without God's glory that the ancestors were able to achieve all that they achieved. So putting God at the center of thanksgiving and just being thankful that we are able to enjoy the world today, but it's very much enjoying the world today in recognition that is God's grace that's allowed us to enjoy these things. And then the third element is justice, the importance of justice in the world for an equitable society, that God is a just God, treating people fairly. Again, it's repeated here, looking after the fatherless, the poor, the foreigner, the Levite in your space, and anyone in need. So justice is really crucial, not taking bribes, not doing favors to those that treating people fairly regardless of who they are. Without a just and moral society, then everything that becomes before that is tainted, because you're giving thanksgiving for something that actually wasn't God ordained, because you've engineered something to happen in an unjust way, which actually is against God's moral law. So how do you give thanks to something which actually is unjust? And also remembering that when the children were enslaved in Egypt and coming out of Egypt towards the promised land, that there are many things that the humans didn't understand, that they had to put their trust in God for those fulfillments to happen. So these three elements of remembrance, of giving thanks, and justice are tightly connected, and one can't be divorced from the next. So yeah, it's again, they're the foundations of theological basis of Christianity, of Judaism, and then kick forward then to Rastafari and to other elements, speaking from Ethiopian Wahido, you're very strongly entwined with these chapters and these theological thinkings, remembrance, the fact that we're now in the fasting season of Abba Siyam, the Great Lent fast, the Great Fast, 55 days. It's all about remembrance of what Jesus Christos had to go through at that time. Without remembrance, who are we as a people? No sense of identity, what binds us together as a people? That collective consciousness, that collective experience of struggle and endurance. Remembrance is crucial for forming our sense of community and how aligns our solidarity with one another. Remembrance is foundational. Then thanksgiving, the fact that it's about humbling oneself. If you think about the Lord's Prayer, give us this day our daily bread. We're relying on the Most High to give us our subsistence. No matter where we work and we got a wage and all this kind of stuff, where would that be without God's grace to allow us and afford us this luxury of having a life where we're able to do these things, even affording a luxury where we're able to fast in the first place, because not everyone has that luxury to be able to make the choice to fast. So thanksgiving is crucial, of humbling oneself and just understanding I would not be here if it was not for the grace of God in all things. And then justice, living according to God's will, humbling ourselves to know that actually justice has to prevail, even if it's not the outcome that we want. Justice unfairly treated is what we're striving for, where all are treated equally. And what I mean by even if it's not the outcome we would want is that we have to be treated accordingly with other people. People can't be doing us a favour if it's about treating someone else unfairly to give us a prop up. So creating an equitable society is what is strived for. Again, if you think to the Lord's Prayer, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. What that's asking for is we know that we are striving for the kingdom of God on earth as it is in heaven. That's what we're asking for. We want earth to be a heavenly place, a righteous place. We want God to dwell in the land with us in our everyday lives. We're not waiting to die to then go to heaven to have a righteous life. We want righteousness here on earth as it is in heaven. So remembrance, give thanksgiving, and justice is working towards embodying God's kingdom, God's grace, so we have heaven on earth in this iteration. So I'll end here. So give thanks for this day. Have a blessed Sunday, or whichever day it is that you are engaging with this. Have a great time and God willing, be back more tomorrow. Blessings and love every time.